A full day since Columbia Gas officials and others testified before a Senate panel about what went wrong, both before and after the dozens of explosions and fires across Lawrence, Andover, and North Andover in September. Plenty of questions remain. And some on the panel even went so far as to call for executives involved to resign over their handling of all this.
This company still does not understand what it means to take responsibility for fundamental failure.
It's a sentiment that was echoed by many after all that was said and done, and it was a concern Lawrence Mayor Daniel Rivera raised within the first few days of the explosions.
When we first got word of this incident, the least informed and the last to act has been Columbia Gas.
So did yesterday really change anything? Lawrence Mayor Daniel Rivera joins me now. Mr. Mayor, thanks so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Just heard what you said on day one. Anything you hear yesterday from NiSource in Columbia 75 days later that makes you feel any better?
No, I think that what we hear all along is when it comes to dealing with people, the plight of these people, what they need to do to make those folks whole, that they're doing whatever their insurance company will let them do. And that's unfortunate because I think that this is a tragedy no one expected, and frankly that our insurance company is ill-fit to deal with.
Do you think these two guys, I mean, obviously I don't know them, the head of Columbia Gas, the head of NiSource, do they care about this, or is this a CYA, cover your whatever kind of operation on their part?
The optimist in me thinks that this stuff is really bothering them, and this is a concern for them. But like I said yesterday, I don't know if somebody who makes $5 million a year can really understand the plight of the folks in Lawrence, Andover, North Andover, or a business in North Andover who makes their living, paycheck to paycheck.
Well, speaking of that, obviously you know better than anybody, Lawrence, comparatively speaking, is a pretty poor community, overwhelmingly people of color. Yeah. Do you think if this was a wealthy community in Massachusetts and it was a white community, there'd be 75 days and still tons of people without heat and hot water?
Well, I think, thank God every day that Andover and North Andover are going through this with us because they have made sure that this thing has kept pace. I don't. I think it shows the vulnerabilities of communities of color, poor communities like ours. The biggest gap in annual income across the United States is between Andover and Lawrence, and in between census tracts.
Is that so?
Yeah, but we're such a big community, and if something bad happens to a restaurant in Andover, all those workers in the back, those are people in Lawrence who get affected. So we care deeply about what happens in Andover and North Andover.
Well, actually, the leaders there, I know right after the explosions and the death happened, were praising you for having reached out to them, not at this time, but the second you took over. One of the amazing moments for me yesterday, I was watching some of this video. Adam Riley was here, a reporter on the thing, and I asked him about the panels, and he mentioned the panels with the executives, and I said, on the second panel with the mayor and the police chief, whatever, and I said, what was the reaction of the executives to that? And he referred me to a little sound from Senator Warren. Here's Senator Elizabeth Warren.
Columbia Gas and NiSource hightailed it out of here because they don't want to hear from the people of the Merrimack.
They hightailed it out of here. They didn't wait to hear what the mayor of Lawrence had to say before a United States Senate committee?
Well, I'm going to tell you, we are on the call with them at 4 o'clock every day. They hear plenty from me. And the other two leaders, and I think they're probably sick of hearing me our complaints about it. But I think they've been getting bad communications advice. Took them way too long to start doing direct mail to the people that were affected. Took them way too long to put Spanish TV ads up after we've talked to them for a long time. But it's a pattern of every time we thought they should do something, we basically had to beat it out of them to get them to do it.
How many people and businesses still don't have heat and hot water in Lawrence?
So I think if just the businesses, in Lawrence, about 31 businesses left. But if you're talking about people, there's roughly about 605 meters. That's about 1,000 cells.
By the way, you stayed in the shelter your first night yourself, and you have little babies who went to stay with relatives and your wife or something?
Yeah, no, my wife and kids are away, and it was the last night when the fires were out and the gas was put back on. I don't want to make much more of it than it was. I was telling people don't go back to your homes until the morning. It would have felt funny if I went back that night, so I stayed in the shelter one night.
What was that like? I understand why you did it. But what was it like?
It's humbling. I mean, it just show you how the plight that people are going through. And I had slept on a cot most of my formative years in the military, so I wasn't it wasn't foreign to me. But when you're doing that with your kids and your family, and you're going out to see the Red Cross person, it's not what you want.
What's it like when you? I mean, people talk about your relationship with your constituents, and you are a kid of there. I mean,
I'm a Lawrence kid.
What's it like when you have to go see people in these 75 days who I can't believe how they smile and seem to have a positive attitude. I mean, it's amazing. Yeah. What's it like talking to them when I mean, you're their leader.
Yeah.
I know you're not the head of the utility company. Yeah. No heat, no hot water. It was, again, supposed to be resolved by November 19th. Yeah. Now it's December 16th, allegedly. We're all crossing our fingers. What's it like dealing with it?
It's incredibly frustrating, and it's at the same time very powerful and uplifting, because they say go get them. You know, they go make sure that every day we go out and fight on their behalf. But I thought we had a great idea in these RVs, and then when they show us the RVs, and I'm like, this is actually a nice RV. And then you watch a mom and kid go through that process. And I don't care if it was a 30-foot RV with 2 floors and 18 wheels.
It's not their home.
And you don't want a kid going through a process where they have to take an ID badge and all these things. It was like a refugee experience.
You know, one of the things, again, getting back to Adam's package last night, my head almost popped off. I think it was Nikki Tsongas, the outgoing congresswoman, who said to one of the executives, can you commit, first of all, they said, we're going to make people whole.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's wonderful. But then the question is, can you guarantee that the cost of all this will not be passed on to the ratepayer? And he said something like, I can't make that commitment at the time. And my reaction to Adam was, so what they're basically saying, yeah, we'll make you whole, and we'll likely make you whole by sending the bill to you to make yourself whole. Is that a ridiculous
ludicrous to me? Which is why I think you got to break the company up.
I think you said that specifically.
You got to break the company. I'm not
Is
sure
that rhetoric, or you literally?
No, I don't think people are taking it seriously enough. You know, if a kid in Lawrence picked up a gun today and shot somebody, that kid would go to jail for most of his life. His life would basically be over. Columbia Gas basically did that on the 13th. There's no reason why that company should continue to make profits in the United States, especially in Massachusetts. So given that, they could liquidate the company, take the sales of that, the money of that, and pay for this all.
Is that even within the realm of, how does that work?
I don't know. I take it seriously. I know, again, when people think about government, you know, they want government to do something. And I bet you those 7,500 meters, which ended up being like 40,000 people, men, women, and children, we would love to see that happen.
Can state government do this?
I think they can take away the license.
You endorse the governor of the Commonwealth.
Absolutely, and I'm going to be at every DPU meeting that comes up with this person, with Columbia Gas's license comes up.
You know, you mentioned the profits a minute ago, and we both reacted to this thing about this. They have shareholders. Yeah. Now, my understanding, I'm not a financial expert, is when the company profits, the shareholders do well. Yes, when the company loses money or has expenses because of what they did here, why isn't the answer to Nikki Tsongas' question, well, the shareholders are obviously going to bear the brunt of this financial disaster for us?
Because they think they've mitigated it by their insurance. And I tell you, you know, if they handle this by the insurance companies, they're going to continue to have failure after failure in their hands. Because insurance companies' number one rule is how do we get not pay the claim? And so they think it's a folly for them if they do that.
You know, Lionel Rondon is the young man, the teenager, who obviously lost his life. And you were there for this. I was not. I saw it last night. Here's his sister with some incredibly powerful testimony before this committee. Just watch her for a second.
I will never have my brother back, but we hope there will be justice for him in the community. Nobody should ever go through what my family has gone through ever again.
What is justice for the Rondon family? What is justice?
I mean, I racked my brains before about that. You know, I just couldn't come up with something less than having them break up the company. I mean, this young life is gone. First-time homebuyer, a patrolman who just became a police officer, his house literally blew up. It's gone. Like, he'll never forget that. His kids will never forget that. You know, people taking cold showers, old folks who've had immigrant and refugee experiences, who came here to escape those things, were reliving it. So I think you got to do. And by the way, what a better message to send to other utility companies: sit up and fly right. Than if you take away the license and make sure that one company is gone.
So you're calling on Beacon Hill and DPU to take away the license?
I'm telling them and the federal government to make sure that they're not doing that 100%.
And if they don't do that, how do you go to your constituents? Can you say to them with a straight face, when this is resolved, when all the power's back on, you can trust this company to be safe and to take care of your needs going forward?
I think that what they have learned in the last couple of days is that they can't trust this company. I mean, it's funny when we're in meetings and I say that we don't trust you. People still get surprised. And I'm saying, guys, if you do it right at the offset, if you don't make us beat you up to cut the checks for the claims. By the way, cut the check for the claims. then people would have bigger trust.
So it's break it up or nothing as far as
No,
they're
and then you're going to
concerned.
just have the same old stuff again, because what can government do? I always say, what can government do that doesn't affect? It's not like trying to mess with the market or anything, but this company did wrong, and if a person does that type of level of wrong, we do something to that person.
Are you a different person than you were 75 days ago?
Yeah,
How?
a little bit. Definitely a lot heavier. But this is a weary process. I'm not really sure where this is going to end. I think I said, individually, communally, you can't measure the end of this thing in days and weeks. It's when somebody forgets about the darkness, somebody forgets about crossing the bridge in the middle of the night with all their stuff, or the RVs. Even when kids are playing baseball back on the common where we have the RVs now, I'm pretty sure, we're going to have memories of what happened.
Good luck to you, Mayor Rivera.
Thank you so
and we're
much.
thinking of your people.
Appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Dan Rivera, Mayor of Lawrence.